regular meeting of the Lakewood City Council of May 11th, 2015 to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Murphy?
Here.
Shakti?
Here.
Kellen?
Here.
Johnson?
Here.
Wickman? Here. Paul? Here. Harrison? Quinn?
Here.
Coop?
Here.
Barraway?
Here.
Royball?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, and as always, I'd like to welcome everyone who's chosen to take part in their local government by coming out to join us this evening or watching us at home, either live streamed or on Channel 8. I would ask that if you have any phones or other noise-making devices, please check them if you're here in chambers. And I'm going to mention a couple of quick changes in the agenda order tonight, and they are quick and easy. We are going to do item 6 before we're going to switch around item 5 and item 6. So the proclamation for Mental Health Month will actually be right before the proclamation for Historic Preservation Month, and then we're also going to switch around items 13 and 14. So the ordinance on the judges' compensation will be done before the hearing on the sustainability plan. The former should be a very quick one, but I just wanted to alert everyone that those changes will occur. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silent prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. As I'm making my way down to the podium, will the clerk please read item 4 into the record, and I would invite Chief Kevin Paletta to join me.
Item 4, proclamation, Peace Officers Memorial Day.
Come home.
Mayor Pro Tem Paul.
Thank you, sir. Proclamation recognizing May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and May 10th through 16th as National Police Week. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. And whereas the members of the Lakewood Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the residents of Lakewood. And whereas employees of the Lakewood Police Department consistently perform their duties with courage, compassion, and professionalism. And whereas it is important that all residents know and understand the responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their police department employees, and whereas we were once again reminded of the dangers of police work on July 5th, 2014, when 2 Lakewood police agents were critically wounded by a gunman while responding to a call for help. And whereas the men and women of the Lakewood Police Department unceasingly provide a vital public service to our residents. Now, therefore, on behalf of the City Council and the residents of Lakewood, I, Bob Murphy, Mayor of the City of Lakewood, Colorado, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby recognize May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and May 10th through 16th as National Police Week, given under my hand and seal of the City of Lakewood this 11th day of May 2015. Mayor Bob Murphy.
Chief, it's an honor to present this proclamation to you. You know how proud the City Council and the entire City of Lakewood are of our Lakewood Police Department, so thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Murphy. Thank you, members of City Council. On behalf of the Police Department, we tremendously appreciate this recognition. I'll be sure to share it with the employees, and at a time when the national headlines have been troubling with regard to police actions, that tends to overshadow the courageous and compassionate work that's being done on a daily basis by the men and women of your police department. Also, we'll recognize that work this Wednesday when we have our annual awards ceremony. So thank you again. This means a lot. Appreciate it.
Mayor, if I might, on the subject, we have diversity in our community, but I'm saying the obvious. There's one thing that we're 100% behind, and that's our public safety, the agents. And so on behalf of all the people, thank you for all the good work you do.
Thank you, Councilor Wickman. Much agreed. Will the clerk please read item 6, now item 5, into the record? And while she's doing that, I would ask Mr. Goff to come down.
Item 5, proclamation, Mental Health Month.
And I'm going to ask Mayor Pro Tem Paul to read this one into the record.
May is Mental Health Month, whereas Mental Health Month has been observed since 1949 to raise awareness about mental health conditions and the importance of mental health wellness for all. And whereas mental illness is a leading cause of disability in Colorado, and the state has the 8th highest suicide rate in the country. And whereas a stigma surrounding mental illness remains one of the greatest barriers to improving the lives of Coloradans through better mental health. And whereas Lakewood residents could be affected by mental illness regardless of age, gender, race, religion, or economic status. And whereas good mental health is essential to the overall health and emotional well-being of all children, youth, adults, and families, and helps create a healthy community. And whereas mental illness and substance abuse disorders are treatable and recovery is possible when appropriate treatment services are available and accessible. And whereas increased focus on the prevention of mental illness among youth through healthy environments, screening, and early intervention has the potential to save and improve countless lives. And whereas the community health system, including the Jefferson Center for Mental Health, is advancing the integration of treating mental and physical health and substance abuse disorders together to realize better patient outcomes, reduce healthcare costs, and improve patient satisfaction. And whereas community mental health providers play a critical role in responding to local emergencies and tragic events and are an essential resource for healing individual and community trauma. Now, therefore, on behalf of the City Council and the people of the City of Lakewood, I, Bob Murphy, Mayor of the City of Lakewood, Colorado, by the virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby recognize May is Mental Health Month, given under my hand and seal of the City of Lakewood this 11th day of May 2015. Bob Murphy, Mayor.
Thank you, Adam. It's my pleasure to present this to David Goff, who's the Vice President of Administration and the Chief Financial Officer for the Jefferson Center for Mental Health. Mr. Goff, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of City Council. On behalf of the board, the staff, and clients of Jefferson Center for Mental Health, thank you for issuing this proclamation recognizing the importance of mental health and the wellness resource in our community. Jefferson Center is the private nonprofit mental health center in your community. We served over 23,000 residents last year. We also are a proud partner of the Colorado Crisis Services Network, providing 24-hour, 7 days a week access to mental health services, crisis services, including a crisis hotline and a walk-in crisis center. We truly value the support of Lakewood. Thank you again. We couldn't do this important work without you and your support.
And Mayor, if you wouldn't mind, again, I had the opportunity in an earlier life to serve on the board of directors of the Jefferson Center for Mental Health, and I got to say that was some of the greatest experiences I ever had, and I'm glad you guys are, again, effectively helping our community in ways that are just beyond imagination. So, again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Will the clerk please read item 5, now item 6, into the record?
Item 6, proclamation, Historic Preservation Month.
And I would ask Jeannie Ramsey to come forth. So we did this. All right, I ask Councilor Quinn to read this proclamation into the record.
Proclamation recognizing May 2015 as Historic Preservation Month. Whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for managing growth, encouraging sustainable development, revitalizing neighborhoods, fostering local pride, and maintaining community character, while enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation and for Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas it is important to celebrate the role of history in our lives and the contributions made by dedicated individuals in helping to preserve the tangible aspects of the heritage that has shaped us as a people. And whereas the celebration of Historic Preservation Month gives Lakewood the opportunity to publicly recognize the participation and dedication of the members of the Historic Preservation Commission, the Lakewood Historical Society, and others who have contributed their time and expertise for the betterment of the community. Now, therefore, be it resolved on behalf of the City Council and the people of the City of Lakewood, Colorado, I, Bob Murphy, Mayor of the City of Lakewood, Colorado, by virtue of the authority vested in me, recognize May 2015 as Historic Preservation Month in the City of Lakewood. Given under my hand and seal of the City of Lakewood this 11th day of May 2015, Bob Murphy, Mayor.
I'm presenting this to Jeannie Ramsey, who's the chairwoman of our Historic Preservation Committee, and it's very appropriately read in by Councilor Quinn, who is our resident historian and author, actually. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On behalf of the Lakewood Historic Preservation Commission, who are all here this evening to share in this important evening, we're delighted with the support of the Mayor and City Council in historic preservation and enriching the lives of our citizens with cultural resources, including historic properties. And we're excited to forge ahead with our second year of the existence of the Historic Preservation Commission. And now I have a report I can give you as you want to do that.
What we'll do is, and let's one more round of applause, please. I will ask the city clerk to read item 7 into the record, and then I will go up and take a seat.
Item 7, presentation, Historic Preservation Commission's annual report.
And how convenient I'm standing right here to do this. So the Lakewood has been a certified local government for 1 year. March of 2014 is when that was accomplished. And that means that for historic properties, property owners, we are eligible to apply for state grant monies to help us maintain, restore, rehabilitate, and stabilize properties that are at risk. One of the responsibilities of us having a certified local government and your Historic Preservation Commission is that we do an annual report, and this serves as that report this evening. One of the things we have to do as CLG is to meet certain training requirements, and to report on that for this year, we had several of our commissioners attend the annual Saving Places convention in February. We've had invited several speakers from History Colorado to our meetings, and we were trained on what it means to be a certified local government, how to handle public meetings, and how to deal with the public. We also learned how to develop a survey plan for future planning of identifying historic resources in Lakewood. Let's see. We also attended Historic Preservation Commission training at History Colorado, which enables all of us as commissioners to understand the formal public hearing process and to represent the commission that way. In terms of outreach, we attended the CAR 25 Historic Trolley Open House at the Federal Center this year. Several of us attended this year's Earth Day event, and we showed a DVD called The Greenest House is the One That's Already Built. We had a great turnout for that, and it was talking about the environmental contribution that history and historic preservation makes to that and to environmental concerns. We are also working right now on identifying a survey plan for the city of Lakewood and identifying historic resources. So that's been a big undertaking. We had a retreat where we set aside half a day or so, and we talked about all the different neighborhoods in the city and those that are in priority order for looking at their historic resources in depth. So we've identified those areas, and we've got a plan of which one to address first. So we're looking forward to continuing with those plans this summer. We also wrote letters of support for funding of the Caretaker's Cottage that's at the Heritage Center. They were doing some historic restoration work on that, and we're supporting those efforts. And we're also attending neighborhood meetings, particularly the O'Kane House here in Lakewood. Next year and upcoming events, things that we're excited about doing in our future, our second year as a Historic Preservation Commission. We're going to attend and participate in the May 30th West Colfax Historic Preservation Symposium. We are working on applying for grants to help us with our first preservation survey work. We are reaching out to the Lakewood Historical Society to partner with their efforts. We'll continue to partner with the Heritage Center for events and educational materials and other programs that are appropriate. We continue to outreach at community events such as the O'Kane House hearings and conversations. And we've are developing a program for next year's Historic Preservation Month, which is May. And we would love to designate our first historic landmark in the city of Lakewood this next year. So those are our goals. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Jeannie, thank you. You know, just on a personal note, as a history major from a family of history majors, including my sister and daughter, it's thrilling for me to see the energy that is and the momentum that the commission is. You're just growing, and we appreciate it very, very much. So thank you.
It's a pleasure to serve. Appreciate that.
Thanks. Will the clerk please read item 8 into the record?
Item 8, Resolution 2015-36, appointing Stu Wright and Chris Marconi to serve on the Board of Directors of the Lakewood West Colfax Business Improvement District.
And I would ask Councillor Quinn for a motion.
I move for the adoption of resolution number 2015-36.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. I'm not sure if Mr. Wright or Mr. Marconi are here tonight. But again, this is the West Colfax Business Improvement District is a separate board, obviously, from the Lakewood City Council, but law does require that we approve new directors for that district. So I guess there's nobody here, but I thank them both for their willingness to serve. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, please cast your votes. And it passes unanimously. Congratulations again, and thank you. Okay, we are now to the public comment portion of the meeting, and this is the point where the public is invited to address the City Council on non-agenda items, and we do have a 3-minute time limit, and I would ask you to kind of keep an eye on the light down here. For the first 2.5 minutes, it'll be green. When it glows yellow, you'll know you have 30 seconds left, and when it glows red, we would ask you to begin to wrap up your comments. I'm just going to go right to the list. Mag Strip Matter.
Good evening. I would just, I am Mag Strickmatter, Executive Director of the Action Center at 8755 West 14th here in Lakewood. And on behalf of everyone at the center, I just wanted to extend a heartfelt thank you to the City of Lakewood for the support of the Action Center's work and its mission over the years. And I also invite all Lakewood residents to come on out and actually take one of our regularly scheduled tours to see the center in action. And you could find those tours listed on our website. So on behalf of the 30,000 plus residents of the county we serve every year, I want to say thank you.
Well, Mag, we should be the ones thanking you for the incredible work that you do. So thank you for taking the time to come out tonight.
Thank you.
Natalie Menton. Natalie, please relax. Take your time. Don't feel compelled to stick to the 3 minutes. You're an elected official delivering a very important report. So,
okay. So do I need to do anything with the slide? Okay, Natalie Menton, Ward 5, also RTD, Board Director for Lakewood, Golden, Wheat Ridge, and parts of unincorporated Jeffco. So I was just going to give an update to City Council. I was here maybe a month ago. We're going through a pretty intense study going on a year now with revising our fares. As of about 2.5 weeks ago, we got staff came back after all the intensive public outreach that we were doing and came back to us with a proposal that's changed quite substantially in a couple areas because of the public feedback that we were getting. So let me start with the good news, and that is when I had come to you last time, we had talked about, among other things, getting rid of transfers. In the new proposal, which we will be voting on May 26th, transfers would continue to be used. It would be the same setup as it is now, and you would have, when you board a bus and you get a transfer, you would have a 3-hour window to use that transfer. For those who are regular riders, and depending on the route you're using, that can make a very big difference in your the amount of money out of your pocket. But there was another change coming in. When I came to you last time, we had talked about getting rid of the fare zones. And so on the West Corridor, we have the different fare zones. So Garrison is a line. Go beyond that, and it costs you more money to ride. So as an example, if you're getting on at Wadsworth Station right now and you're going to Union Station, it's $2.25. On the other hand, if you were getting on at, say, Federal Center, Taj Mahal, I'm sorry I always call it that, but that's the name most people know, actually. I guess it's PC by this point. Then it would be $4 instead of the $2.25. So we were going to get rid of those fare zones. People just didn't like them. The feedback that we were getting said that, okay, maybe we don't like them that much, but we don't think it's fair to have just one set rate. An entity that had a lot of problems with this was Boulder, because they use the BRT up there. BRT is an express regional type of a route. They were paying more. They didn't feel it was fair that all light rails would be at the reduced rate. So now it's changed to where we would have 2 zones. And I'm just going to talk about the West Corridor. It's easier in this audience. The West Corridor would have 2 zones under this proposal. The cutoff, this is good for Lakewood residents, not so good for Golden, would be Red Rocks Community College. So if you're getting on at Red Rocks, or you're getting on at the Federal Center, Oak, Garrison, wherever, it's going to be a local fare. And as a reminder, that means that the fare one way would be $2.60 if you're paying cash, $2.35 if you pay with your smart card, because you get a discount using your smart card. If you are getting on at Taj Mahal, it's going to be considered a regional or express route, which we have now coined the phrase, it's a REX, Regional Express. If you're getting on at Taj Mahal, instead of the $4 you're paying now, and I'd come to you and said $2.60, $2.35, that would now jump to $4.50 going from Taj Mahal. So what would be the impact to Lakewood? I would guess that parking garages in Lakewood are going to see an increase. What other impacts? I don't know. There's a lot of factors here. Throw back in, we're looking at a $1 increase now, but at that time I was telling you that we weren't going to have transfers. So how were you getting to the light rail? Were you paying 2 fares? One to take a bus over the light rail and another when you get on? Now we have the transfers. So it just depends on so many different factors. You almost have to look at each individual, how this all affects them. Right now I'm still taking public feedback on this. Anybody goes to rtd-denver.com, again, rtd-denver.com. Look under Board of Directors. My contact information is there. Frankly, I'm not sure how I'm going to vote on this right now, and my mind is open on this. I do want to give you a couple, and I do want to cover and this decision just came in today. I've been very anxious. Where is this map? What tells me what station is going to be what? The decision comes down to anything that is a 9.5 mile outside of Denver, whatever that little pinpoint is. 9.5 miles out. Beyond that is what is a REX area. Okay? And Thursday I do a presentation with the City of Golden. I don't think it'll be so good. But just to speak to that, I just found that City of Golden had sent me a note that said, we support Boulder on having BRT and all the light rail, all the rail lines the same price. So I get to go to them and say, and they already know this, you kind of helped create this problem. So again, I don't know how I'm voting though, so far, because this information is just coming to us so late. I'm sure you're all kind of used to something like that, but we were out there for a full year, and now we have a real change in what's going on. We are still getting hit very hard on coming up with a low-income pass, which would be somebody who qualifies 150% of federal poverty level. We are still trying to figure this out, but financially it means that RTD would have to come up with $12 to $20 million annually to do something like that. Some of the things that have been presented is charging for parking. How does this affect Lakewood? If we go with something like that, that means that the 24-hour period that's free for district residents would go away. So I'm open to public comment. If any of you want to have a one-on-one meeting, get a little more information. I don't want to take too much time here, I know. Thank you for the consideration on giving me more than 3 minutes. Our general manager, we are still in the process of doing that. We don't expect to be looking at a GM hiring one until probably close to the end of the year. It's a pretty long process. And one last thing, this is probably not in the best news category, just the recent boarding numbers for West Corridor. Original projections within the opening year were supposed to have been about 19,000 boardings or passengers per year. Per day. The current numbers right now are about 11,300 boardings. So if you count somebody going round trip, you're going to divide that in half. So boardings have continued to decrease. One last thing, you may have read the news article about the Belmar Cullen ride. The proposal, we right now have 2 shuttles that go around with Belmar Cullen ride. Since some routes were reduced, cut in half when the West Corridor opened, we are proposing that we'll cut to 1 shuttle. The subsidy is terrible on the Belmar Cullen ride. It's nearly $40 subsidy per boarding. That's just unacceptable. And that's the Cullen ride. It's not Accessoride. It's assisting handicap. This is the Cullen ride green shuttle. I want to make sure that's very clear. But right now we only have about 1.2 boardings per hour, and we're operating from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we can't be operating a system that. So I would like to initiate a discussion with City of Lakewood, with Lakewood Rides, and our Cullen ride. See how we can maximize shuttles that are going around and servicing. My understanding is Lakewood Rides can't keep up with the demand, and obviously the Cullen ride doesn't have enough passengers to operate, so I'd like to open that discussion. I think I've covered everything I'd like to do in this update.
Director Menton, thank you. A lot of information. Certainly, I'm sure council members, I don't know if anybody wants to make a comment now. I would obviously strongly encourage anything that would facilitate people wanting to ride the train, including not charging for parking is kind of an obvious one. But anyway, anyone else?
Yes,
Tom,
I did have
sorry.
a question. Can you remind me it's my understanding the current system for low-income indigent people is that RTD provides passes that are then distributed by nonprofit organizations. Is that still the case?
That's correct. Going off memory, I think it's several millions of dollars that go into the low-income programs as they exist right now. The entities that distribute those are saying that they don't have enough money to continue to buy these 50% reduced fares, so they're looking at RTD to shoulder the rest of the cost. But currently RTD is already handing out I forget now if it was $2 to $5 million is costs that we eat, taxpayers. So problems are, the programs are there. They just say the demand is too much to keep up with what's there right now.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thanks,
All
Natalie.
right, thanks. I'm used to my cam. I don't have to turn it off, do I?
No. John Nillen?
My name is John Millen. I live at 11346 West 26th Place in Lakewood, and 11346 is located between Quail and Sims. So just to give you an idea. I am here on behalf of our neighbors, on behalf of my wife, who is very upset, and on behalf of several people in the neighborhood about flooding in our neighborhood. We have addressed this. We've been flooded twice in the last 3 years, 3 times in the last 5 years, and it's all because of an unfortunate situation with the engineering on the street. Anytime we get a torrential rain, we get flooded. And frankly, I've spent $15,000, $16,000, $18,000 in the last 3 or 4 years, whatever it is, every time we get flooded. And I'm here to ask the council what we can do to look at something to be done to fix the issue. Frankly, it's gotten kind of old. I even went to Home Depot today. I walked in, Bruce, Chris, see me. I walk in the carpet department, and they go, no, not again. I said, oh yeah, again. So I'm looking here for some concrete comments from the council of what can be done to assist us to fix the problem. I know it's probably not cheap, and it's probably an expensive fix, but we need some help. I mean, we just can't live like this. Every time it's a bunch of water. One time it was a water main break that had nothing to do, really. There's nothing could be done. But I just don't know what to do. Our neighbors are sick of it, and so if I can get some public comment from you as to what can be done in some type of time frame to alleviate our issues. I mean, we would really very much appreciate it. So, for the record, I've called the mayor this morning, and I want to let people know that the mayor was kind enough to call my house and return my call tonight at 6:45, which I think is, that says something to me as far as, he cared enough to make a call, and I really appreciate it. I did leave voicemails and have emailed our representatives. I'm sure they will get back to me, and I look forward to a positive discussion there. I thought it was pretty funny that the Historic Preservation Group was here tonight, because if we don't get some help, you'll have another little group of property it might be historic pretty soon too. So it's going to get destroyed if we don't get some help. So anything you could do, we would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nillen. Before I go on to Mr. Nillen's name was the last one on the list, and I will certainly open it up in a minute for anyone else in chambers that wishes to comment on a non-agenda item. I did have an opportunity to visit with Mr. Nillen right before the meeting started, and I appreciate and encourage you to come down and express the nature of your problem to everyone. What I would propose, I'm going to do a quick kind of 30,000-foot overview of the situation right now, and I guess, Kathy, I would propose that maybe the engineering staff sends out an email to council to give them the same information that I have, which is that, unfortunately, it was not the best drainage design in the world back in 1962, before Lakewood, when this area was designed. But it doesn't change the fact that they have a problem. It's also, in terms of cost, very, very significant. Perhaps 7 figures, and it's not one of these things that's available for matching funds from urban drainage and flood control. So I know our engineering staff has been out there, and you mentioned Terry and I think some others, but I would like all of council to have the same level of information that I and the Ward 1 representatives have.
You got it. We'll make sure that.
Okay. Councilor Kellen.
Do we know, is his property anywhere associated with the top 10 list that we?
No, it's not one of those that's available for matching funds. It's not one of those that's, yeah.
I really wish you had been here 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Because we voted on raising the fees so that we could fix more properties, and this is exactly why I advocated for a higher raise in the fee, because it's not just the top 10 properties. There are properties all over the city and people that are being hurt just like this all the time. And it's very expensive to fix. And without sufficient money in that fund, there's only so much we can do. So it's disappointing, and hopefully we can find some way to help you out. But I can talk to you after as well.
Right. All right. Again, Kathy, if we can get that thorough update, that would be much appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Nillen. All right. Anyone else in chambers wish to speak on a non-agenda item? All right. With that, we will close public comment. We'll move on to the consent agenda, and I'll read some abbreviated instructions tonight. Its consent agenda is to expedite council action. We just have resolutions on it tonight, so I'll open up the public comment period in a moment on the two resolutions. We also have some acceptance of minutes on here. It doesn't. Well, first, I'm going to ask the clerk to read the items on the consent agenda into the record, and then we'll deal with it as a whole, unless something is pulled.
The consent agenda consists of items 10 through 12 inclusive. Item 10, Resolution 2015-37, approving award of funds under the 2015 Charitable Giving Pilot Program of the City of Lakewood. Item 11, Resolution 2015-38, authorizing the adoption of the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments to the Lakewood Employees Money Purchase Pension Plan and Trust Agreement. And item 12, accepting the minutes of the Lakewood Planning Commission meeting of April 1st, 2015.
Thank you. Very quickly, item 11 is just a periodic cleanup to keep us in compliance with ever-changing IRS regulations. And it does not affect either our city's budget, one penny, nor does it affect our employees. It's just routine language cleanup to keep up with new regulations. Item 10, approving the award of funds under 2015 Charitable Giving Pilot Program. We do have a presentation on that tonight, and I would ask Keith Steckmesser to come on down.
Thank you very much. My name is Keith Steckmesser. I'm the current president of the Lakewood Legacy Foundation. I've been in that position for about 2 years. A member of the Lakewood Legacy Foundation board for about 3.5 years, and I've lived and worked in Lakewood since August of 1979. So I've been around just a little bit a while ago. A few weeks ago on 4/23, the members of the board had an opportunity to evaluate 19 proposals for funding requests. The members of the board, I'm not sure who is all here tonight, but myself, Matt Logan is here, Karen Black, Gay Dugan, Katia Walton, City Council Member Schottke, and City Council Member Karen Kellen. Anybody else here tonight? There we go. I'd like to thank them for their help. We had it was a learning experience for all of us. It was the first time that I was chaired this type of a committee. We enjoyed the process and the ability to award grants to 10 different organizations. We had a total request for about $300,000 and $100,000 to distribute. And over a period of about a 3-hour time frame, we were able to come up with the list with which you have been presented. I'd like to entertain any questions or comments from the council or anything else that you would like at this point.
Okay. Thank you. I think Councilor Kellen's going to have a question. Just as a quick background to those who are watching, as Keith mentioned, this is a pilot program. Every year, year after year, we've had a number of funding requests from many very worthy organizations throughout Lakewood and Jefferson County, and really haven't had a policy, a system in place to deal with it. We did put a formal system in place last fall, if I remember right, and this is, as Keith mentioned, the first outcome of this effort. It's a very formalized process, very strict criteria to even kind of make the cut for consideration for final funding. So it looks like there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 very worthy organizations. So thank you for what you've done. Councilor Kellen and then Councilor Johnson.
And I just want to make a comment. Thank you for chairing the committee. I appreciated your leadership. And while it was a lot of reading to do to prepare, what the thing that I learned is that There are some amazing organizations in this city doing work for our citizens, and frankly, I would like to give away a lot more money. So I'm going to put in a plug for next year's council to double the amount to give away.
Right. All right.
Sorry, I'm on my way out, I guess.
There's a certain amount of freedom that comes with term limits, folks. As one who knows, I think it's worthwhile to read off the recipients, and I know representatives of many of these groups are here in the audience tonight. The Boys and Girls Club, CASA of Jeffco and Gilpin counties, Eaton Senior Communities, Family Tree, Hands of the Carpenter, the Jeffco Action Center, Jeffco Schools Foundation Parent-Child Home Program. I see Stephen Ann Burkholder here in the audience. Seniors Resource Center and St. Anthony's Foundation. And I skipped one. Second Wind Foundation, sorry. So congratulations to everyone. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. I, too, really appreciate the work that these organizations do for people in our community. As far as I'm concerned, they do God's work. I do have a few questions. Do we have any idea on these charitable organizations, the ones that are Lakewood based, how much of their money, how much of their services go outside of Lakewood?
One of the criteria of the selection committee was to evaluate how many residents each proposal would fund for people inside the city of Lakewood. And that was a very strong criteria. A couple of groups that were denied funding at this point were for two reasons. One, because most of their work was outside the community for the proposed funds. Two, that the benefit per resident was very high in compared with the dollars being spent. So, for example, one proposal would have been several $100s per Lakewood resident served. Mm-hmm. That proposal did not move forward. So what we tried to do with the committee is to look and evaluate as to how the dollars would directly impact people who lived in the city of Lakewood.
Thank you. I appreciate that you have that strict criteria, because one of my concerns has been that we are giving Lakewood taxpayer dollars to organizations that are outside of Lakewood. And I'm curious, how do we know how much of that budget is actually coming back to our own Lakewood citizens that we're giving?
That was a criterion that's very worthy to keep in the discussion as we talk about this for next year.
I think so, too. And I guess my last question, frankly, is how were city council people chosen to be on this committee? Because I never got any kind of a memo for inquiry of interest.
There were only two, and it wound up being Shakti and Karen Kellen. And frankly, Councillor Johnson, one of the problems that we ran into was that virtually everyone up here, to my knowledge, including yourself, has a connection with somebody that was an applicant. So they're on a board, or they work for them, or and that's kind of what it got down to. We couldn't
this is what happens if you don't get yourself on a board. You end up reviewing us.
So many of the council members were serving on a board of applicants, so that would not have been appropriate.
Actually, I don't sit on a board, so I'm just curious. Thank you.
I'd be happy to talk with you.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And there was actually, when we set up this criteria, there was actually a vote that was taken by council that outlined what this committee would look like and would consist of 2 council members as well as the folks from your group. So that was something that was voted on by this body. And then I also just wanted to add, Mr. Steckmesser, thank you very much. And I think this is pretty cool, and it sounds like there's things that we can learn from this as we go forward. And I think ultimately our goal, we share the same goal, and that is one day the city doesn't have to put any money in, that you'll be able to take it off as the legacy and keep going.
And I would agree with that. I think over time it'll become more vital for the Lakewood Legacy Foundation to grow to a point where it can do a lot of these types of projects without having the taxpayers to burden them with additional funds.
Amen. Thank you.
I should add that I certainly my preference was somebody that was supportive of this program when we started out. Councillor Shakti?
Two things. One, I shared, without knowing the reasons for getting on the board, my joking reason was because I complained so much about we need the process to be right and we need to make sure it's rigorous, and so then I was on the board. And I was very impressed with the criteria we used, and that there was really a good process to make sure we were making good choices. And then actually being on the board, I got to experience it's incredibly difficult to have money that you're spending but you don't have enough. And so there were a number of very impressive projects that didn't get funded, and I just want to emphasize that.
Thank you. Councillor Barraway?
Thank you. Thanks, Mayor, and thank you to the committee as well for the hard work that you put into it. And having been on council now for almost 8 years and to have interacted with the Lakewood Legacy Foundation, to have this now come together as part of your mission, I think is a wonderful way to collaborate with the Lakewood Legacy and to get others involved with how we're helping out the people in our community. I think this is a great beginning for the city and how we can now have a more organized approach to how we give to our various charitable organizations, because it was kind of hit or miss, and who did you know? And this, to me, makes more sense in the way that we approached it. It was voted on by council. I believe we also agreed that the people selected to serve on the committee were going to be at the mayor's discretion. So that was his decision as to who would be on it. And I know he had to struggle with who to be on it, because many of us do serve on boards or have worked for or been involved with some of these organizations in the past. Thank you guys very much for what you did. I know it was hard work. I remember Karen Kellen saying something like, I want to give the money to everybody, because there's so many good projects out there and so much good that goes on in our community. So thank you very much for your work.
The board and I look forward to further discussions and working in the future.
Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Johnson?
Thank you. I just have one comment. Mm-hmm. When I was reading through these, and please understand, I think every single one of them is worthy. I very much support the work that they're doing. That's not the issue for me. But as I was reading through them, only one designated actually how they were going to spend the money, and that was the Eaton Seniors Community. They're going to buy dental equipment. All of the others stated it was for general operating support. And my concern is once you get put into somebody's line item as a funding source, it is very difficult to back out of that kind of thing.
That was part of the considerations and talk. There were others that were also on the proposals, which I would call capital improvements. Mm-hmm. And in some of our first work, we divided the spreadsheet out by those that were for operating expenses and those that were capital improvement. And so there was more than a couple. But at any rate, I agree with your comments. And I think the intent of this whole thing is not to become a regular funding source for any one group. And that's why I go back to my first comments saying this needs to be refined. This was a great learning experience.
Okay. And I just frankly have a few words about the process up here. The night we voted for the charitable giving, the amount was changed from 50 to 100,000. Karen and I really equal our ward in the way that we balance out the way we vote. Basically, it doubled before we even started the project. Some people knew in advance that this was going to happen. Frankly, I was not included in that. And we must do better up here the way we do some of that.
And again, I know you did vote against it, and that was one of the reasons. Councillor Barraway?
Mayor, I believe also in the criteria it says that the folks who are applying for the money from this particular foundation can't do it every year. So it's not going to become somebody's general operating line item budget. And if I could just read what some of these say, I think that might have a better impact on the audience who aren't able to read this. Funding for general operating support to provide services helping low-income and minority youth. That's the Boys and Girls Club right here in Lakewood. Funding for general operating to provide advocacy for children who are victims of abuse and neglect. Funding for the purchase of dental equipment, as Councillor Johnson said. That was Eaton Senior Communities. Family Tree. funding for general operating of the homelessness program to provide accessible and wraparound services to homeless or those at risk of being homeless. I don't know if you guys know, but Family Tree had to close the Gemini House, which it was the only homeless shelter for teenagers that we had in Jefferson County. It was over at off of Sims and Colfax because they didn't have enough money. And so we have teenagers out there who are homeless. Hands of the Carpenter, funding for general operating for the auto repair program that provides assistance to low-income single and widowed women for auto repairs and car care education. They're located off of Colfax and Kendall, and they work very closely also with the Action Center with many of their clients who come in there. The Action Center, funding for general operating of the food rescue and grocery program assisting low-income people in crisis. Jeffco Schools Foundation, funding for general operating of the parent-child program providing materials for pre-literacy activities for at-risk low-income families with children aged 18 months to 2 years. That's before they have a chance to go into preschool or into our Head Start program. If you don't know, if children don't have their vocabulary by the time they're 3 years old, they're going to be behind in school for the rest of their lives. This is what we're trying to stop here in the city of Lakewood. Second Wind Foundation, funding for general operating, providing professional counseling to children and youth at risk of suicide. As we all know, that started right here in Lakewood at Green Mountain High School. Seniors Resource Center, funding for general operating to provide services to low and fixed income older adults and their family caregivers. If you've ever been in a situation where you've had a family caregiver, you're going to want to have these resources available. St. Anthony's Foundation, funding for general operating of sexual assault nurse examiners program, which provides immediate care for victims of sexual assault. Every one of these is a deserving organization, and I believe that they're going to be servicing citizens here within the city of Lakewood. And for us to have a discussion over whether or not this is appropriate use of our city dollars, I think is, in some respects, shameful or and embarrassing to the people who have come and asked for this and for those clients who need these services. We're here to help the citizens in Lakewood, and that's what this program is doing. I think it's on a great start. I think we've got a great commission, and I appreciate the chair that you've been having with this particular committee. Thank you very much for what you do.
Councillor Shakti?
I just want to add that information is a third of a page for all 10 programs, and what we looked at was literally like more than a foot high. So I don't remember all the details, but we had a lot more details about all of this when we were making the decision.
Great. Councillor Johnson again?
Thank you. Again, I truly support the organizations that this money's going to. And again, I think that you're doing God's work. But people elect us to ask some of the tough questions and honest questions, and they still need to be asked. I'll be supporting it because it's a pilot program. But I think when it comes up again, we need to have some honest discussion about it. Thank you.
All right. We'll have that chance this budget season. I look forward to that. All right. Thank you. Councillor Wickman, late entry.
I'd like to pull item 10 for a separate vote.
That's out of order. We've just given the presentation. Technically, we could still do it, I guess. I think it's unfortunate.
Not the typical sequence. Typically, we'd pull an item and then have the discussion and then the separate vote. But the request was for a separate vote, which could still happen, separate from the other items on the consent agenda.
All right. Fine. I'm going to do it. I'm going to change the way we do things, and I'm going to do the separate. I'll do the separate votes right now, rather than waiting, having all these good folks, all these good causes, have to wait until the end of the evening to see how the vote comes out. So what we're going to do is have a vote. I'm going to ask for a motion, if we haven't had it already, Councillor Quinn, on the consent agenda, absent item 10.
Okay. Mayor Murphy, I move for approval of the council minutes for acceptance of the minutes of boards and commissions, for the adoption of resolutions, with the exception of item 10, resolution number 2015-37, all of which are included in the consent agenda items introduced into the record by the city clerk.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second essentially on item 11 and on the minutes. Please cast your votes. And that passes unanimously. I now, Councillor Quinn, am ready for a motion on item 10, Resolution 2015-37.
Sorry, Mayor Murphy, I move for adoption of resolution number 2015-38. Oh, I'm sorry, 37. Excuse me.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We've had quite a bit. Oh, yeah. Thank you. So I didn't have anyone indicate a desire to speak on this item by signing up on the public comment roster. Would anyone in chambers wish to comment on the charitable giving program? Come on down. Good catch, Karen. Thanks.
Hi, I don't know really how this works, but I'm Hollis Salway. I'm from the Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro Denver. And I just wanted to say thank you to both the foundation and the City Council for considering the funding for our communities. As Ms. Bearway said, this is essential funding that allows us to serve members of our community in need. And I think it's a misconception in the sector that general operating fund goes to support unnecessary costs. Leaders in the sector, such as Charity Navigator, have actually come out in support of kind of giving up the myth of overhead and that that's a bad cost for nonprofit organizations. We have staff members at the Boys and Girls Club that show up every single day for our kids. They work full time to support the kids and their families in this community, and they make a salary to do that. So that's where the general operating support goes, and we're so grateful for every last dollar of it that we get, and we can't do our work without it. And every year we start from zero, and we have to start over again to find all that money. So thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Anyone else in chambers wish to speak on this item? David?
Good evening. I'm David Smart. I'm the president and CEO for Eaton Senior Communities. I, too, want to say thank you very much to the foundation and the City Council for the charitable gift that we received for specific dental equipment. But I'd like to echo, I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, but we also serve people that are eligible for Medicaid. And I often get a question in our assisted living, and I often get a question, well, how much does it cost to take care of a person in assisted living? And the answer is it costs whatever we want it to cost. And our struggle right now is to make sure that we're paying caregiver wages so that we're not perpetuating the cycle of need. So really trying to pay a living wage, and we have a ways to go there. But that's a whole other story. The dental equipment, our goal at Eaton, we serve very low-income seniors. I think the average income is around $17,000 a year. We provide a variety of services there. Our goal is to have everything that you would find in a really high-end continuing care retirement community and have those services available to our residents and make them accessible and affordable. And this gift is going to go a long way. In fact, there's probably not a lot of retirement communities that have a dental office right on site. So we're a little bit ahead of the game thanks to you. So thank you.
Thanks, David. Anyone else? Gay?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Gay Dugan, and I'm at 14157 West Virginia Drive. And I had the honor to serve on this commission, and it was a wonderful opportunity. I just wanted to say that the descriptions of the what we funded are a little don't have a lot of detail. Excuse me. And each one of the proposals really came through with what they were going to use the money for. It wasn't just a line item that said, this is for general operating funds. They came up and said, we need this money for training, and this is what that training's going to do, or something similar. So there was a lot of substance to the proposals. All that was weighed, along with the fact that they had to have a presence in Lakewood, and then also what was the impact to Lakewood. That had a lot of points just to that one aspect of the evaluation. So there was a lot of things that went into this, and I think the commission did a great job. And we had differences between ourselves, and it was hard to narrow it down because there's a lot of good things going on out there. So I just wanted to say that it looks kind of superficial, but it's not. What they came up with in their proposals, they really did have specific things that they were going to use the money for. It wasn't just, hey, we need money. So, thank you.
Thanks, Gay. And the council action did give me, as the mayor, the authority to appoint the ad hoc committee, and each of the 3 citizen members asked me. They volunteered to serve on this, and Gay, you were the first one. And obviously, with your wonderful service for years on our advisory commission for an inclusive community, that was an easy choice, and thank you for continuing your service to Lakewood. Anyone else wish to comment? All right, with that, the public comment period is closed. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Council discussion. Councilor Wickman.
To begin with, I'm going to be offering a motion for an amendment to table the item. But to begin with, I wanted to start off by saying this is a very difficult issue for me. I got started, in community life with charities, and I've been involved with them over the years and continue to support them and believe in them. The list that we got today was just outstanding. There's nobody on that list that I'd have any qualms with. As a matter of fact, I think I probably give to half of those anyway. I think I recognize the Action Center. If I remember right, I gave them $10,000 out last year for the capital campaign. So I don't have any qualms with the recipients. My concerns are philosophical. If I want to give money to charities, then that's my right as a citizen, and I believe it's my moral obligation. And I would like to set an example for everybody else. I think it's everybody's moral obligation to support their charities. But when to put on my government hat, at this point, I have to look at it differently and say that although I believe government should be working with charities, when we're just giving money outright, as kind of like gifts, I'm not sure if that's really morally correct, or at least in a philosophical sense, that people, when they give us our tax dollars, they want it to do the government's business. And my concern is too often we get politicians that want to play Santa Claus or Robin Hood or whatever, and they want to give other people's money to charities. Now, if politicians want to give their own money, that's fine. As a matter of fact, I would suggest everybody up here do what I do and just donate your council salary to charities. But when we're sitting there talking about using taxpayers' dollars for other people's charities, I think that's kind of going beyond the line. But, all right, I could still be so-so on that. But here's my concern, is the timing of this, less than 6 months before the election, can be perceived as, the incumbents trying to curry favor with the charities and the public. So, therefore, I would like to move that we table this item until after the election.
Mayor, I second that.
Call the vote.
Oh, all right. So technically, Councilor Wickman, a move to the motion should be to continue it to a date certain. So give me a date.
Okay, that date would be December 4th, or December 14th I
right.
can't read my own handwriting.
Does the second accept that?
Yes.
All right. So, look, I'm going to hang on a sec. I'm going to write down the list of. We got to do something with the lights up here. So the speakers in order will be Councilors Johnson, this is going back to before the amendment. Johnson, Kellen, Barraway, and Paul. And Shakti, your light just went on. Is that in reference to the amendment? All right. All right. Anybody in reference to the amendment? Look, I'm not going to support the amendment, and I don't think most people up here are either. So let's just let's just have a vote on the amendment, which is to continue this to a date certain of December 14th. So yes, if you're in favor, no, if you're not. Oh man, I'm sorry. So that one fails 1-9. The noes are Murphy, Shakti, Kellen, Johnson, Paul, Quinn, Coop, Barraway, and the second, Councilor Roybal. All right, so now let's go back to the original order. Councilor Johnson.
Thank you. As I said, I'll be supporting this. But I would just like to make a suggestion that next time when something like this comes about, that the documentation that we have has some wording other than to put in general operating support, to have something very tangible. I think it reads better, it sounds better. It's just a suggestion.
It was there, right? Okay. I think there was a lot of information there, Councilor Johnson, but I appreciate the suggestion. All right, Councilor Kellen.
Thank you. And I doubt everyone would want to read the foot-high series of documents that we looked at. I just want to say that I have a little different view of government. And when I look at the work that these people are doing, these organizations are doing, they're doing the work that government once did before we started cutting budgets at the federal level and cutting every place else and telling the poor people that you're on your own, figure out how to make a living, and if you can't do it, too bad. So a lot of these things have gone to the private sector to be funded by charities. And so for the government to give a very small piece of our overall budget to these organizations that are serving the most needed people in our community, the people who are, if you can get to them early on, some of these programs, getting to the kids at an early stage is going to save society so much money in the long run. But we've become so short-sighted on this that we don't want to pay a dime ever anywhere to do anything unless it benefits me right here, right now. I don't want to pay to help anybody else. I hear that from people. So I'm sorry, I have a little different attitude. Yeah, I'm term limited. I say whatever I want now. But I believe this in my heart that we have, as a society, have an obligation to take care of each other. We have people who are struggling through no fault of their own, and if we're not willing to step up and help these people, we can't even call ourselves a society. So I just say to Mr. Wickman and some other people who think that way, that get over it. I'm sorry. I want to help people in our society. I think we have an obligation to do it, and I still think we should double the amount next year.
You actually might have a say in that, but come budget time, Councilor Kellen. Councilor Barraway.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councilor Kellen. The money we're spending is such a small amount of the overall dollars that the city has in their budget. It is embarrassing that we are spending this much time talking about it. The money that we are going to be spending through these charitable organizations is an investment in our citizens. It's an investment in the future young people that will be living here in the city of Lakewood. It's also an investment in the seniors who are still living here in the city of Lakewood. I cannot believe that anybody thinks that we are doing this because of an election in November when this is May, and there's only 3 people that I can think of up here on council that are actually running for election in November. Those of us voted on this at last fall during the budget season. It was a majority vote of the council. We decided to put together a committee at the discretion of the mayor. He put together a very good committee They've done great work, and I am sorry that you're still sitting here having to listen to us continue to talk about this, waiting for us to vote on it, because I really do appreciate the work that you did to get through all those documents and to help want to support the citizens that we have in Lakewood through these organizations that are here in Lakewood. Some of them wanted to come to Lakewood because they knew that they could provide a lot of help to the citizens in this city. This is an investment. This is an embarrassment that we're talking about it at length. I'd like us to get to the vote on this particular item on the budget, or on our agenda tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I can appreciate that, but some emotions have been stirred here, including your own. So, Councillor Paul.
Thank you.
Councillor Wickman on his donation to the Action Center that we had to go fight to get from him for the capital campaign. Thank you very much for that.
Councillor Paul.
Just a couple quick things. The process was voted on by this body, and I think next year, if we go forward with this, there's an opportunity to say we want more detail on this level. What we did when we created this process was we said we have a trusted charity with Lakewood Legacy. We have folks that care. We trust you to make these decisions, and I think you did a great job again. So thank you. And next year, if this continues, then I think that's an opportunity to put more information in there. But that criteria was voted on, and I think it was probably 8-3 or 7-3, I think was the vote. And the other thing, the function of government, we're not good at everything. And these folks that are receiving this money, they're really specialized at who they service. And so they can better utilize those funds to service those needed folks. So this is an opportunity for us to really drill down strategically with this investment from the citizens. And last but definitely not least, the whole goal of this was to kickstart Lakewood Legacy so that in 2, 3, 4 years from now, they're on their own. And hopefully they can be raising $1 million, $1.5 million to give and to really start out and support these great organizations. That's the goal. That's the big picture, and that's what we got to look at. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Quinn and then Councillor Shakti and then Councillor Quinn.
Adam spoke to some of the idea that there can be a partnership with nonprofits when they're doing work that if they weren't doing, the city might have to do it anyway. And so I think in particular of the Boys and Girls Club that we've started an after-school program in another part of the city, but we don't need to start one there because they're doing it and they do it well. So for us to give some support, that makes sense.
Thank you. Councillor Quinn?
I actually have very little to add, except I wanted to apologize to the people who came here tonight for this item. One member of this body reached a new low tonight. I didn't think it was possible, but it happened. Thank you.
All right. Look, I think it was Thomas Jefferson, one of our, maybe our key founding father, who said something to the, if I remember right, the care of human life and happiness is the first and only object of good government. Well, here we are. Please cast your votes. And the vote is 9-1. The nay is Councillor Wickman. Okay, we're going to move on to the next phase. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to switch around item 13 and item 14. And item 13 is an ordinance. Would you please read it into the record, Margie?
Item 13, Ordinance O 2015-8, amending sections 2.20.050F of the Lakewood Municipal Code pertaining to compensation of the municipal judges.
All right, I'm going to ask Councillor Kellen to kind of give a brief overview as the chair of the Judges Salary Commission, and then I will open this up
Mayor
for public.
Murphy. I'd like to recuse myself, as I've been doing.
Yeah, thank you.
Since my husband serves as a temporary part-time judge for the city of Lakewood, I'll be recusing myself from this particular item.
All right, thanks, and we'll wait for you to leave the room. All right. As I was saying, I'll turn to Councillor Kellen for a brief overview, and then I'll open this up for public comment. Councillor Kellen.
Thank you, and I promise not to get so strident again. But the committee met, and we made a unanimous decision. We were able to hear Judge Ann Stavig, our chief judge, came and gave us a presentation on all the wonderful things that they're doing at the court, especially to help youth, at-risk youth, and working on domestic violence issues, and some really groundbreaking, innovative work that they're doing there. And so it was really nice to hear that report, and they will be reporting back to the council as a whole and to the city as to the work as well. But the raise that we're looking at this point is 3% across the board for each of those entities. And that represents the average raise that the other city employees got this year. So since we're not judging their work necessarily, it's more a matter of keeping them in line with the salaries that are being paid in other localities throughout the state that are similarly situated, and to make sure that we maintain the high-quality judiciary that we do have in this city. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. And the consensus of the committee was unanimous, as I understand?
Unanimous.
All right. So with that, I'll open up public comment on this item. Double check here. I don't believe anybody's indicated a desire to speak by signing up on the roster. Would anyone in chambers wish to speak on this item? With that, the public comment is closed. I'm ready for a motion. Councillor Quinn.
Yes, Mayor Murphy, I move for the adoption of ordinance number 2015-8 on second and final reading based on the whoops, wrong one. Sorry. Haven't done this for a while until tonight. Not a zoning case. I move for the adoption of ordinance number 2015-8 on second and final reading. Thank you.
Second that, Mr. Quinn.
And you think we have it all memorized up here. We do not. Certainly not me. All right, we have a motion and a second on item 14. Any discussion? Please cast your votes. Oh, waiting for Cindy to vote. She's not here. We need to lock Cindy out, yeah. That's figuratively on the voting board, not out of the room. Okay, it passes unanimously 9-0. Would somebody go claim Councilor Bearway back? All right, on to the next item, and that is, well, will the clerk please read item 13 into the record?
Item 13, Resolution 2015-39, approving the City of Lakewood Sustainability Plan.
All right, well, this is has the potential to be a milestone evening for the City of Lakewood, our first sustainability plan. As you'll hear, 100 or so people worked on this for in the neighborhood of a year, and it is the results are incredible. They're meaningful, and I'm going to ask Jonathan Wachtel to come up and make another presentation to us. We have had several.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. It's my privilege to be up here tonight. My name is Jonathan Wachtel. I am the Sustainability Manager in the Planning Department for the City of Lakewood. And tonight I'm going to give you an overview of the Sustainability Plan. This is really, I get to present this, but this is really the hard work of citizens, residents across the City of Lakewood over the last year and a half. And so a big thank you goes out to all of the folks that gave their time and expertise and insights into help create this plan. To start, I just want to touch on what a sustainability plan is and what it's intended to do. The sustainability plan, is full of of opportunities, of suggestions for ways to help affect folks' behavior, to leverage information and expertise from our community, and in a way that can help guide our effort to ensure that practices and decisions don't compromise the quality of life for future generations. The foundation of the plan is understanding that first and foremost we need to make sure that we have a healthy environment. It's the foundation that then supports our social well-being and our ability to maintain a high quality of life and a robust economy. You could think of this as the importance of having clean air and of having enough water, both clean water for our health, but also enough water to support all of our uses, whether that's our households or to make sure that we can grow food locally and support urban agriculture and a whole range of topics. So that environmental foundation is really key to how this was developed. But the second component of thinking about sustainability and what this plan does is this idea that we need to weigh equally our decisions, our policies, our programs, and our behaviors to think about the economic impacts, social impacts, and environmental impacts, and really find that balance point between all of those. And so this plan takes that concept of the importance of the health of our environment and the importance of finding this balance between the economy, our community, and our environment as we go forward. And that's the intent of this plan. And I think with all the feedback that we got from the community and all the hours of help that we got from the residents and the business community and experts in their fields that connect to Lakewood, we've really been able to put that together into this plan. 2 weeks ago, City Council adopted Lakewood's newest version of its comprehensive plan. And so I want to talk a little bit about how the sustainability plan relates to the comprehensive plan. You may have noticed that many of the topics in the comprehensive plan are also addressed in the sustainability plan, and that is intentional. The sustainability plan really complements and builds upon the foundation that was laid by the comprehensive plan. But what it does a little bit differently is that it establishes measurable goals and measurable targets, which are like numerical representations of those goals. It gets into a much heavier, more detail on many of the topics and the strategies for implementation than you saw in the comprehensive plan. And really it's a separate document also because it's intended to be a living, breathing, and adaptable document. Evidence of that point is that we came to City Council with Planning Commission and did a joint study session on March 2nd of this year. And even in the time between that study session and now, several changes, and I'll highlight those later, were made based on feedback from public and from the wisdom and expertise of City Council. We've already started refining the concepts and making those changes. So this is intended to be an adaptable and responsive document that we can revisit over time. Talk a little bit about the planning process. Mayor Murphy mentioned that 100 or so folks participated directly. The number is actually significantly higher than that when you consider all the people that came to open houses, weighed in through comments through the online system. We started this formally with the public in the fall of 2013 with a series of 5 open houses in conjunction with the update to the comprehensive plan. That was followed by a series of 6 different work groups that are reflected in the chapters of the plan, and I'll talk about those in a little bit more detail here in a second. And once those work groups were completed and staff was able to put together the document, the draft document, we held additional community open houses to solicit feedback, and we made the document available online and collected feedback. And that online feedback really was available until the close of business this past Friday, and it went up onto the City of Lakewood website in the late July of 2013. So we've been collecting feedback from the public for more than 600 days through this process, and we really appreciate all of the great ideas, insights, questions that we received through that. I wanted to mention a little bit more about the work groups. This was a model that worked really well. We had great participation from the community. We allowed anybody who was interested in participating to sign up to join these work groups. We identified the appropriate staff members that needed to attend based on the topics that we were addressing. And we reached out to businesses, to nonprofit organizations, and to other governmental agencies that could provide expertise on these particular topics. And by bringing all of those parts together, we really ended up with very dynamic work groups. And what was really even more amazing was to find how many of the experts were also residents, so they were serving dual purposes as part of this work group. And those work groups met between 3 and 5 times each between February of 2014, wrapped up in November of 2014. When those work groups got together, we had collected a lot of information through various sources. One of those sources was open house input from those 5 open houses I mentioned. The city every year or two does a community-wide survey that provides a lot of information. We also did surveys through the website and at those open houses. Staff did a tremendous amount of research looking both at best practices from around the country through the Star Community Index, but also looking at plans from cities across the country, plans from cities that were of similar demographics or makeup or population and size to the city of Lakewood, and also we looked at the plans and the sustainability discussions of our neighbors here in Colorado. And we took all that information and we took it to the work group, and they asked questions and they built on that knowledge, and they researched things to even a greater extent and had great discussions, and out of all of that work came the development of the goals and the targets and the numerous strategies that you find in this plan. To summarize all that process up, we had 8 community open houses during this planning process, 24 work group meetings, 87 participants in those work groups. That equals more than 450 hours of donated time to our community. That's an incredible amount to be given from residents and expertise to help us bring their expertise into this process. We've come before you 5 different times before tonight, giving you updates, study sessions, bringing you up to speed on how this was going and where we were going, and collect your feedback to answer your questions and adjust based on the response that we got and your input. And we have 5 study sessions. There you go. In addition, we also attended several neighborhood meetings, and as I mentioned, we're always available with information online, by phone, and in other venues. So with that, I'm going to highlight a little bit of what you'll find in the plan without getting into too much detail, and then talk about our strategies for how we see implementing the concepts in this plan if council decides that you would like to adopt this, and then we'll open it up for questions. So to start, how is the plan organized? Each of the chapters in this plan starts with a value statement and an introduction to the goals and targets and the goal topics that are going to be in the plan within that chapter. And what's really important to note is that those targets relate directly to the goals covered in that plan. They're numerical representations of those goals, and the intent is to say, let's work towards this, and here's how we might be able to measure it. And a lot of times there's a specific number. Other times those targets instruct staff to go find out where we are, take a baseline, inventory, and then set a target going forward. So, and those are those targets are the things that we will revisit and report on and adjust, as we move forward. There are 3 types of implementation strategies that you will find in each of these chapters under each goal. The first are the primary implementation strategies, and those are highly detailed. Typically, and not 100% for all of them, but typically that includes instructing staff to understand where we are currently, to identify opportunities and issues, challenges, come up with a suite of potential solutions, and then work to implement those, revisit those, report on those, and have an iterative process. So those are our primary implementation strategies that you will find under each goal in each chapter of the plan. Second type of strategy that you'll find are what we refer to as cross-cutting strategies. These are strategies that were developed at some point under one of the goal areas in the plan, but are of a nature that they can really serve to help implement the goals across many other areas of the plan. So, for example, a concept of a sustainable business hub was the idea that, and a certification program was an idea to really help recognize businesses that are leading the way to a sustainable future through their practices, and to connect those businesses with technical expertise and to the talent and the potential employees in the community, and to our education system, and to our schools. And so that concept of creating that network can serve to really forward almost every potential goal in this plan. That's a network. That's a way to connect people in our community and share information and transfer knowledge. So that was identified as a cross-cutting strategy along with several others. And so for each goal in the plan, we re-mention that particular strategy and talk specifically about how that strategy can help implement the topic that we're discussing. And the third type of strategy you'll see under each goal is what we call our supporting strategies. And this is recognizing that throughout each work group, no matter what topic we were discussing, there was an emphasis on the importance of collaboration with community partners, with different organizations, the importance of education and outreach and marketing of concepts, the importance of researching tools and staying up with emerging technologies, and making sure that we are tracking progress and trends that relate to that topic. And so those supporting strategies that you find after each subject talk specifically on that topic, how we can collaborate, how we can educate, how we can use tools and technology to help achieve these goals. Then, after you get through all of the strategies for each topic, we've done our best to summarize those strategies in terms of the benefits that you'll receive. And so going back to that idea of balancing the environment, our economy, and our community, we looked at each one of the strategies and assessed the potential to become a benefit when implemented across each of those topics, and you'll see that in the strategy benefit table. And following that, we also wanted to get an understanding of what kind of resources might be required to implement each of these strategies and what benefits or payback might get realized either by the city itself or by our residents and businesses after implementation. So you'll see that feasibility table as well after each goal area in the plan. The plan's organized into 7 chapters. The first is on climate change and the importance of planning for adaptation, preparing for ongoing impacts that we may or may not fully realize or understand, but at least to track those and start to think about those. Chapter 2 looks at energy, water, and the built environment, looking at renewable and affordable energy, looking at making sure we have resource efficiency in our buildings, and overall ideas of green buildings, which go beyond just the resource efficiency to talk about public health and how spaces interact. Chapter 3 looks at our economy and how to build a sustainable economy, specifically a local self-reliant economy. So a lot of the topics that you hear quite often currently about urban agriculture and local food production and supporting local business, that's covered in this chapter, along with self-sufficiency and upward mobility, a lot of the work that you just discussed this evening. Chapter 4 addresses zero waste and how we can reduce the amount of waste that we're producing. The zero waste concept is not just about what happens when you're done with a product, but also its sourcing and its useful life. And we look at that through a culture, through the municipal operations, household waste management, and commercial waste management. Chapter 5 looks at community cohesion and public health. A lot of work has already been done by our community and this council, passing a resolution to make us a healthy eating, active living community. This builds on those ideas. How can we make sure to foster community cohesion, public health, civic participation, diversity, equity, and those types of issues that are important for a sustainable community. Chapter 6 looks at natural systems. We address biodiversity, the importance of protecting our ecosystems and ecosystem function, and looking at how we can use nature to adapt to hazards and challenges. Flooding would be a great example of how we can use green infrastructure and mimic natural processes. And then finally, the last chapter addresses transportation. And the comprehensive plan gets into great detail about, with a really strong vision for transportation. And so the sustainability plan takes that to another step and really says, well, how can we build things with sustainable materials and how can we really impact a transfer and the use of these new concepts and how people move around. I do want to mention that we made a handful of revisions since, I mentioned it earlier, since the March 2nd study session. We continued to get public feedback. We collected your input and wisdom and advice and ideas. And as I mentioned, this is a living document. So we made some changes. I'll highlight those very quickly. We adjusted the local food target to make sure it was more realistic. We realized that we didn't have enough baseline data to really have a measurable target yet. So we kind of scrapped that and said, let's go get that baseline target and then our baseline data and then set our target going forward. So we kind of took a step back there. We want to make this realistic. We want to make sure that it's feasible and that it makes sense for Lakewood. With respect to curbside waste diversion, residential specifically, we heard that the language in the plan appeared to be prescriptive and to already have concluded an outcome, and that was not the intent of staff or our work groups. And so we changed language in that section to reflect the importance of having a collaborative public discourse over how to address issues that we heard significantly. We have heard for over a decade of concern on various related topics. And so we changed that language to make sure it's very clear that this would be a participatory, inclusive process to look at how we can come up with solutions to the concerns that we heard from the community. We looked at our city fleet target and strategy and had more conversations with our fleet manager, Nina Hoffert, who's been involved with our sustainability efforts since the formation of our employees committee and is very on board with trying, no pun intended there with the fleet, with addressing some of these issues. And she looked long and hard at our strategies and asked us to make some changes so that it was really realistic and we could go forward and feel confident. And then we heard that some topics in the plan and some of the terminology was very technical, and we realized that there was a challenge through the entire process to balance the technical nature of many of these issues with creating a public document that everybody could grab onto. And so we added some additional terminology and definitions in the glossary to try to help bridge that, or to make that challenge a little bit easier. So with that, tonight, Council, we're asking you to approve the sustainability plan. And when we do that, we're asking you really to take a look at those goals and take a look at those numerical representation of those goals, which are the targets, and determine if those are right for the city of Lakewood. We hope that we've gotten there through all of our planning efforts and all of our meetings with you over the last year and a half. And if that is the case and staff is instructed to go forward, we'll take all of those implementation strategies in the plan, and that will become our work plan. That is an instruction to staff to say, work towards these goals. Look for ways that you can move us forward towards those things. And so we've identified, 4 really important ways that we can do that. The first, and they're on the board here, I'll go through each one. The first is community engagement. 450 hours of volunteer time, hundreds of people involved, and we get inquiries weekly from residents in this community that ask how they can help with sustainability. And so we need to make sure that we create the document online to make it interactive, to make it useful for folks, and to really work with the community to create opportunities so that we can leverage all the expertise and interest in the community to start implementing the strategies and the plans. So that's number one, continued community engagement and making this accessible to Lakewood residents to put to use, and businesses. It's critical. Second is prioritized implementation, and those are the strategies that city leadership, the city council tells us are important to go and address right now. Those are issues that maybe are high on your priority list. And in addition, that staff can prioritize. Considering our existing work plans and our existing budget, what can we go ahead and prioritize and start working on? And we're committed to using the budget process if and when additional resources are needed to implement strategies in this plan. We'll come and make those requests through within the context of the budget process. This is a really important one. The third one is to leverage opportunities. There's a lot in the plan. I'm sure you all looked through that and thought, wow, there's a lot to get done here, and how are we going to get that done? Well, one really important thing is that the sustainability staff will need to go to every department, every division, and say, here's what relates to your work plan that's in here. How can we work together? What do you have coming in your work plan? What are you going to be working on, and where can we find overlap with what's in the sustainability plan and work together to achieve more within the same resources that we have? So that's one, cross-departmental opportunities. The second is to be open and ready to take advantage of regional partnerships and opportunities. So, so often we get opportunities from the governor's office or from some other entity, of the EPA or some other entity that's working on great projects, and we need to make sure we are ready and have the capacity to take advantage of those. One great example is a grant that we've got working with Jefferson County Public Health to start looking at access to healthy food in our community. Well, the sustainability plan has a lot of language about the importance of doing that, and so, taking advantage of that grant, being able to hire a consultant to start researching and getting us baseline information is a great way to leverage a partnership and move forward with implementation. And then finally is to report and track on our progress. And our intent is to come back to council on a regular basis, update you on our progress, to build a dashboard where we can report, here's our target, here's where we started, and here's where we are as we move forward. And by doing so, we'll really keep our eyes on each of these strategies, on how we're doing. Are we missing the boat? Do we need to adjust? Did we overachieve on this? And should we aim higher? And we'll be able to come back and have that iterative, living, breathing document. So with that, the plan is online. If anyone has yet to see it, that's maybe in the audience or watching. It's at lakewood.org, moving forward /S plan. And before I take questions, I want to acknowledge the hard work of all the folks that participated in the work groups, many of whom I see are here today, and the hard work of our sustainability planner, Lynn Coppage, who joined us, hard to believe, a little less than a year ago, and who put her expertise and hard work into this plan and really helped to make it what it is, which I think we can all be proud of, and I hope we are. So with that, I will wrap them up and take questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Lynn. As I said earlier, we will now open the public comment portion of this ordinance, and there are a number of people who have indicated a desire to speak by signing up. First is Maddie Nichols.
My name is Maddie Nichols. I reside at 5800 West 8th Avenue, 80214. I happen to be on the group that worked with Health and Community on the sustainability project, and I would agree with Jonathan. There were a lot of people, and a lot of people with expertise that were just John Q. citizens, and I would, because this is a workable, adaptable kind of document, I think Lakewood would not be in a good position if they said that this wasn't something we needed, and I would really recommend that you vote for this. A lot of work was put into it, a lot of thought, a lot of effort, not just from the staff, but from the citizens of this city. So I really am looking forward to hoping that you all think this is the best thing since sliced bread.
Thank you, Maddie. And thank you for everything you do in this community, in your neighborhood. And this is yet another shining example of it. Thank you, Gary Hardy.
Thank you, Mayor Murphy and City Council. Gary Hardy, Ward 3, 6014 West Colorado Lane. I stand before you here tonight as arguably the slowest bicycle racer in the entire state of Colorado, regardless of age or sex. I also stand before you tonight as a very healthy 65-year-old man. And I think there's probably several factors to that, but in no small measure it is the amount of mileage I have logged using my bicycle for transportation, and that includes the honeymoon that my wife and I took. The sustainability plan before you tonight includes 7 chapters. One of those chapters deals with transportation, and each chapter has implementation strategies that support the goals and objectives of each chapter. The goals and objectives are compatible with the adoption of the comprehensive plan, and that's already taken place. If you adopt tonight's plan, we will be able to chart and measure our progress towards all of those goals and objectives. If you adopt the plan tonight, we have the potential to offer to a greater percentage of our population healthy transportation alternatives, including walking, cycling, and utilization of mass transit. And I'd like to add finally that the Lakewood Bicycle Advisory Team stands ready to assist the Sustainability Department and all the other department heads in any way that we can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. Dana Gutwein.
Hello. Hello, everyone, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. I know many of you know how important this plan is to me, so I am really excited to talk to you about it tonight. I did participate in 2 of the work groups, and I helped lead the Sustainable Neighborhoods program for Southern Gables. And I also work hard to live more sustainably in my own home, though sometimes it is hard to do on my own, which is actually one of the things I want to talk about. I'm really proud and excited about this plan and the future that it's working toward, and for all of the I'm thankful for all of the work and the leadership that you have all shown in this plan. But I'm not here just because I'm excited and hopeful. I'm here because I believe it's so important and that we need to take action on this stuff. So I think that Chapter 1 really highlights all of the reasons and all of the probable impacts on our public health and our economy. And because of that, I have met many people in our own homes who are working very hard to make a difference on our own. But these challenges are not something that we can do on our own. It's not something we can overcome on our own. And so we do need help from the city. We need access to additional education, access to additional resources. And I think that those things are all represented in this plan. And it also allows us to have a more meaningful impact together than on our own. And I think that really comes in through the measurable goals. So I guess to sum it up, I think this is something we need to do. It's something that we as a community want to do, and I think it's something that we can do. And I'm very proud and stuttering and nervous, proud to be a part of this program. And I'd like to ask you to adopt it. So thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Michael Siebert.
Mike Seibert, Ward 4. Actually, I didn't think I was going to talk tonight. However, I did want to...
My mistake, but you actually didn't...
want to give my support to a very well-thought-out plan. I was on one of the committees, and I'd also like to tell the City Council that you have a very good staff here in Lakewood, and they've worked very hard on the sustainability plan, and I hope you will see your way to passing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot. You did indicate no, so in terms of speaking. All right. Anyone else in chambers wish to comment on the plan, on the item? All right. With that, we will close public comment. I'm ready for a motion. And very appropriately, making the motion for the adoption of the comprehensive plan is Tom Quinn himself.
At long last, yes. And it's so short. Mayor Murphy, I move for the adoption of resolution number 2015-39.
You want to read the plan into the record?
I could, if everybody, I can help everybody fall asleep tonight. You know, if you're having some insomnia problems, I'll still be here at 4 a.m.
I'll second your motion.
That's actually funny. I mean, Tom has really led our sustainability efforts for 7.5 years now, and at the culmination of it, he gets to read one sentence into the record proposing that we adopt the plan. Tom, again, thank you. Thank you for all your work. All right, we have a motion and a second. Discussion and questions from council. Councilor Wickman.
Question on Appendix B, the changes on the item ZW2-A, residential curbside. you put in the phrase as an immediate priority, and I'm just wondering what is the meaning behind that semantics?
We put that in there because there is not a implementation schedule included in this plan, which we often have included in other citywide plans, for most of the reasons that I highlighted in the presentation, which were the need to be able to take kind of a shotgun approach on how we implement things. But this particular topic, having to do with residential waste, has been such a popular is probably not the right word, but such a common thread of an issue that we have been hearing about for years. It by far and away was the number one commented upon item in the plan through all of our public process and public feedback. And most of those comments, the majority, almost all but I think 2 or 3, talked about various concerns with current residential trash hauling, whether that is the number of trucks on the street or our diversion rate or various other related issues. And so of all the topics in the plan, is the most commented on, is the biggest issue for our residents that participated. And so that language really just calls out that staff is going to work on that as one of our first priorities.
Okay.
So the sentence, just while Councilor Wickman is contemplating his next question, the sentence says, as an immediate priority, present City Council with potential programs and policies for residential waste haulers that address the inclusion of recycling services in collection contracts, minimize impacts to neighborhoods from traffic and noise, and explore the use of variable rate collection systems where the cost of service is based on the volume of trash generated. As an immediate priority, present City Council with potential programs and policies. Councilor Wickman.
That's all my questions. I will offer amendments later, but when we go on to questions.
All right. Councilor Barraway.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll just stay on that same topic. I just have one question. First of all, when my father-in-law moved to Lakewood, he called us and said, where do I find who picks up my trash? Because we don't have a Yellow Pages anymore, and he didn't know how to go on the internet to find that. And then recently on nextdoor.com, one of the threads has been, when people move into the neighborhood, where do I find people that I can call to pick up my trash, or who does recycling and who does that? So I didn't know if one of the first things we might be able to do from a city perspective is just to list all the various waste haulers, recyclers that operate through the city of Lakewood. We've had them pay that, I think it was a $50 fee. Could we just list that somewhere? We don't have to say we approve them or give them a star recommendation, but here are the ones that operate in the city of Lakewood, and just put that on the city's website so there's a one-stop resource for folks to go to when they move to the city.
We're in the process right now of creating that web page that lists the licensed trash haulers in the city of Lakewood.
Perfect. Thank you. Other than that, I just want to make some comments if that's appropriate. Sure. Time to do that. As I mentioned before, Jonathan, when I first met you, I knew that sustainability was one of your passions, and to see this for both you and Councilor Quinn come to fruition is just amazing. This document, I'm currently helping to write the West Colfax Community Association vision statement and plan. We're nowhere close to this. And so the amount of information you have in here, the ability, the ease of reading it and understanding it is just amazing. So I can't believe you guys have been able to do this since just late July of 2013 and put this together in such a great fashion. And I know that comes with a lot of input from citizens. I recognize many of the names in here of our various citizens who are active in many neighborhood organizations or who work within, as we said earlier, a lot of these folks have the expertise. And as Maddie Nichols said, and they're John Q. citizen of Lakewood, but they have the expertise, and they came forward to help our city put the sustainability plan together. It's a very well-written document. When it comes time for the vote on it, I will be voting yes for it. So thank you all very much, everybody who worked on this, staff and citizens. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilor Quinn.
Yes, thank you. This has been a long road since the 2003 comprehensive plan, which first made mention of sustainability. At that point, unfortunately, we had no money to be able to implement what we had, and really didn't have the resources to go on and develop a full sustainability plan. So It's been a long road. I wanted to comment on the very extensive public outreach efforts and public involvement in this process. It was very much driven by the public, by the Sustainable Neighborhoods Program folks who participated extensively in this. I attended all of the open houses as well as a number of the work group meetings. And this was really very much a citizen-driven process. Staff was there to help and facilitate those discussions. But they let the participants in the working groups decide what were the priorities. I think I've talked before about the fact that we all had to work when we went to those meetings. They called the working groups, we worked. We got worksheets, we went through those worksheets, we outlined our priorities, we went through and identified what we thought the impact of different actions would be in terms of sustainability. And then staff had to go and somehow miraculously digest all that information and turn it into a plan. It was really quite amazing to watch. But I just wanted to say that to me, that was really a critical part of this, is that it was driven so much by our citizens throughout this process. We had really great, started off with some fantastic open houses, great speakers as the keynote to actually kicking off the process. And then, of course, staff. I don't think anybody wants to know how many hours you and Lynn had to put into this on weekends, Jonathan, to get through it in the relatively condensed time frame that you have. I wanted to thank everybody that's been involved in this process for all the hard work that's gone into it, and certainly Travis for your leadership in the planning department as well. And I want to get back to something I said at the last meeting, which was talking about the definition of sustainability. I really do think it's all about building a strong, healthy, resilient, and prosperous community for the future. And I think it's critical that we proceed with this plan, but it's only the beginning. Then we have to move on to implementation. And we might find that's the hard part. That's where the rubber literally meets the road, as they say. But I know we can do it. This is a great way to get started, getting this plan completed. And let's move forward from here as one community. And I also want to talk a little bit, just briefly, about the recycling issue. Why it says in there as an immediate priority. This discussion about curbside recycling and about increasing our diversion rate. And by diversion rate, I mean how much material is diverted from the waste stream, either composted or recycled. This discussion is not new. It didn't start in 2013. It goes back a long ways in Lakewood. It goes back to the Advisory Commission for an Inclusive Community in 2008 during, I believe, its first year of existence, in which at that time it was specifically called, I think, the Environment Committee. It might have been considered called the Sustainability Committee. They wrote a lengthy report making a number of recommendations, including that we look into options for increasing curbside recycling in the city. They made some very specific recommendations. That report is available, by the way, if anybody would like a copy of it. They specifically recommended that we look more closely at all of these options, including requiring all waste haulers in the city to provide recycling service. In 2009, the Employees Committee for Sustainable Lakewood, or ECSL, spent an extensive amount of time looking at recycling options, and also recommended that we look more closely at some kind of a variable rate recycling system. And moving on from there, many people, and I don't have the exact number, attended the Waste and Recycling open house. It was held in the fall of 2013. You can go on from there and look at the results of the citizen survey from 2013, which included several statistics. That survey showed that 65% of those surveyed believe the city should investigate strategies to increase recycling. 71% said curbside recycling should be a standard option in trash service. So there's a reason it's a high priority. We need to move forward on this because our citizens have told us they want us to move forward on it. And so it's critical that really should be the first thing we take a look at. But thank you very much. Is everything okay over there?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, but with that, again, let's move forward with this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. Councilor Johnson?
Thank you, Jonathan. I think you're dynamite. And frankly, I think this city is extremely fortunate to have you. I appreciate all that you've put into this, and I know that this is Councilor's Quinn issue as well, and the people that have put in, you named the amount of hours. And I came tonight, to be honest with you, clearly unsure how I would vote for this. As I was rereading it today for about the third time, I started jotting down some thoughts. So bear with me while I kind of read through them. Just understand that I was putting some things down. First, I want to say I am extremely proud to live in a city that understands its role in how we have responsibility for our planet, even at this level. I mean, this document clearly speaks to that. Sustainability has become a household word. It represents our need as individuals to feel a stewardship toward the greater good. I believe that. This document shows that we are role models and examples of what sustainability looks like and what it really means. I especially appreciate the use of the words promote and educate, and they were in the document several times. Thank you. That's good. This 280-page document is not benign. It complements and supplements the comprehensive plan. On page 52 of Sustainable Economy, it states, increase the number of housing units within a designated complete neighborhood by 25% by 2015. Right now, we are on a full throttle ahead with apartments going up. And folks, for good reason, are wondering where all this development is heading. Between these two documents, it is very heavy on supporting high density, and the waste hauler language in there I'm not real comfortable with. For fun, just let me read a few sentences from the latest Kiplinger newsletter dated May 1. And this is a letter that gives forecasts for executives and investors, and it does not have an agenda. It mentions Denver, actually, and our outlying areas in saying that living preferences of younger folks will change. The influx into downtown areas of young adults seeking jobs and city lifestyles will not last. As millennials marry and start families, they'll increasingly prize good schools and affordable housing, not apartments, over exciting nightlife and tiny apartments. Seniors will move out from the suburbs as they can do their work online. I keep reading the word equity in this document, and I'm not sure what that means and how it will be interpreted as we go forward with this. And this is kind of where the rub comes for me. Once you have written words in a guiding document, and this is a guiding document, even though we have the ability to change this one, we are not going to make changes to the comprehensive plan. I mean, it's in there for good for another 10, 15 years. They give credibility and justify the direction of public policy just by being written. People elect us up here to look, because they believe in us for one thing, and they feel we study issues and do our best to look at long-term consequences of our votes as much as is humanly possible. residents want and expect all of us to ask and do our best for the people in this city. And as I read through the sustainability document, I see so much that is right and good about it. But what gives me heartburn is the direction of and the interest in high density. And that I'm struggling with. That's all I have to say.
Later I'll correct something that you misspoke about quoting statistics, but Councillor Shakti.
I don't know if other people want to respond to the density issue.
Well, let me start by saying that Councillor Johnson misspoke, and there is a line here about, she mentioned 2015. It says increase the number of housing units within a designated complete neighborhood by 25% by 2025. By 25% by 2025. Councillor Johnson said 2015. Jonathan,
I stand corrected.
Please comment on a complete neighborhood, designated complete neighborhood.
Yeah, I can understand the conclusion that you drew reading that, but I want to clarify the concept a little bit, because I think that might help bring some context to the intent of that strategy. There's a discussion about complete neighborhoods, and some work's been done, as you all are aware, about the idea of a 20-minute neighborhood around the Sheridan station. That concept has shown up across the country as the idea that complete neighborhoods are those neighborhoods that allow people to walk to services that have recreation and amenities and access to public transportation, schools, and all those things that you would need in your neighborhood to make it feel complete, for lack of a better term. And so the strategy in this plan asks us to identify and define what that means for Lakewood, because it may mean something different for Lakewood than it means for another community. And then to take that concept and those criteria and map our city and look at where we are right now and how many of our neighborhoods meet that criteria of what we've defined as a complete neighborhood for the city of Lakewood. And then to work to increase the number of people that are living in those. And so certainly adding density would be a way to do that if you were just keeping, if you only had, 2 complete neighborhoods and you were happy with that and you wanted to increase the number of households. But the concept here really is to look at ways that we can make sure we're providing all those services and those amenities and all those characteristics that we define as a complete neighborhood across our community in appropriate locations. And so we could increase the number of households in complete neighborhoods without adding any additional units of density, but by simply working to make sure that the amenities and the characteristics, access to transportation, access to neighborhood serving commercial, schools, et cetera, are available in our neighborhood. So it doesn't equate to increasing density. It's about the characteristics of our neighborhood.
Thank you. I mistyped on my document. Thank you.
Councillor Paul, follow up.
Yeah, I would just say, too, for clarification, especially for folks who may have tuned in. So we really have 3 documents. We have a zoning document, a comprehensive plan, and a sustainability plan. All those documents can change, and they can be amended. And in fact, with our zoning document, we've been coming back every 6 months to a year to fix that and to address that. But what's prescribed and what was passed in our comp plan and this plan deals with density, but that has already been zoned for those types of uses a couple years ago. So it's been a constant plan that we've been looking at and understanding that whether they're going to want an apartment or a condominium, we most likely are going to continue to see growth. And that's what these are trying to do, is identify that and make sure that we're prepared for that. And as leaders, that's what our job is to be prepared.
Councillor Kellen.
Thank you. I first off want to thank everyone who participated in this, and Jonathan, great job. I think it's a really good document, and I think it really lays down a good path for the city to take in the future. And I really appreciate all the time and effort and energy that everyone put into it, because a lot of people came to a lot of meetings for a long time and put their heart and soul into this, and I can see it. You can see it in the document because it has real vision and it has a real heart and soul. looking at the future of the city. And the reality of the world we live in is that Denver metropolitan area is one of the fastest growing areas of the country right now. And more and more people are living in urban areas, and the population is growing. And Lakewood is a wonderful place to live. Ergo, we're going to get more people wanting to move here. And even the young people will grow up and they will want their houses, but they can have our houses for those us seniors as we move into some place where I don't have to deal with a lawn anymore. And there will be new young people who will replace them and who want this more dense living where they can walk to the train and go downtown to a baseball game, or they can walk to a local restaurant and have dinner and not worry about having a drink or two because they're not going to drive home. And I look at it, we've all along in Lakewood, we have talked about balancing the two sides of this. We don't want to mess with our wonderful single-family neighborhoods. I live in a great lot. I don't want it to go away. We don't want those neighborhoods to be turned into apartments. We're looking at denser housing in the high-density areas that have been designated. We're looking along the light rail, along Colfax, major corridors where people don't want to put single-family homes anyway. That's the appropriate place for them. So the idea is to balance both lives so that I can have that urban living environment, but I can still have my acre lot. And I can even have a horse. Probably ride my horse to the light rail, but I don't think they have a way to take it on there yet.
Has anybody tried?
Not that I know of. Maybe a pony. I think that they're a little small. But I think this is where the future is. This is where things are going. And we as elected representatives, we have to look forward. We can't keep looking backwards and trying to hang on to something that was here 30, 40 years ago. This is, if you look at the population change in the metro area in Denver and Lakewood, since Lakewood came into being, we've grown tremendously. We can't bar the doors of Lakewood and say, you can't come here anymore. We can't tell people they can't move to this great state. So we have to make some room for them. And the best place to make this room is to go up in appropriate areas rather than just keep spreading out further and further. The actual model that we live in now with the suburban model of living in your cars all the time is relatively new. Our ancestors when they lived in urban areas, they lived closely together. They actually had trains, remember, trolleys? And they walked to the store and they tried to have everything close. What we're now coming around to is some wisdom that our ancestors, our forefathers had already. But when we got the automobile, we decided we could drive everywhere and we can spread out. And the automobile is a great invention, but it's not the be-all and end-all. And all you have to do is look in our schools and look around, and I'm a good example, but we have a society who isn't moving enough. And when we get in our car for everything, we keep moving. We don't move. So these plans, these programs really help us to look for the future so that we can build a community that our children can thrive in and that they can have the best lifestyle possible. And so the vision that you folks have put into this document is amazing. And my heartfelt appreciation for all your work and your dedication, and Councillor Quinn for carrying this ball for so long for us. And I thank you.
Wow, thank you. Councillor Shakti, and then Councillor Paul and Councillor Quinn.
I want to start with a question. Councillor Quinn talked about the survey showing 60-something%, and I looked at the Lakewood Citizen Survey, and I saw 94% of citizens were interested in more kinds of recycling, and I wonder if that's information anyone has on the top of their head.
I'm not going to be able to give you the breakdown, but if the survey had a scale, and so I think Councillor Quinn was looking at just the very top scales, those folks that said this is really, really important to us, and the 93% includes it's important and it's incredibly important, or something along those lines. Yep. So it's about how you group the response, but the 93 or 4% is still indicative of people that said this is an issue or if they support that particular topic.
Okay. So when I travel, I like to come home. And part of why I like to come home is because we live at the base of the Rocky Mountains in a community with 99 parks and over 7,000 acres of open space. And we're lucky. And we know we're lucky. And the way I know that is the number of people who are out on a sunny Saturday in our parks and open spaces. And I would add even the number of people who are out on a snowy Saturday in May. We choose to live in this community, and to some extent this community also shapes who we are. And that might explain to some extent different polls, one of which is the Conservation and the West poll, which shows that Colorado voters place clean environment and outdoor lifestyle as the top reason they live in the West. We live in a unique place, and we care about it, and that's why we want to protect our assets as we move forward. And that is what this plan does. It looks at community, economy, environment, and sees how they're all entwined. So I'm just going to give some highlights of things that strike me as important that are in the plan. It talks about ecosystems. It says increased acreage of functional and healthy ecosystems. So that's more parks and more open space, but that's also how we manage our parks and open space. How much biodiversity is there? And is there anything we can do better to manage our parks? It talks about clean water and best management practices. Sometimes there are simple things like planting bushes along waterways that will make the water cleaner. It talks about efficient use of energy, which is about paying less in our utility bills today and into the future. About renewable energy, which is a technology that gives people jobs while also saving us money in the long run. It talks about how we can create less trash, instead making fertilizer and mulch. That's instead of creating more landfills. It talks about recycling, which, according to the Citizen Survey, 93 or 4% supported having us look into more opportunities for recycling. It talks about resiliency. It includes a vulnerability study. So we look where are we vulnerable as a community and what can we do to be stronger so that we are more stable moving into the future. And then it also looks at those businesses that have been really engaged and have taken steps on sustainability. What can we do to recognize them? What can we do to support our local businesses in general? And that's about buying local, but that's also about connecting businesses to financing and investment so that they can succeed. It's about local food, so our local farms and also community gardens. And it's about healthy people. So that means we can't have food deserts. We need, no matter where you live in Lakewood, you need to be able to access fresh and healthy food. It's also about exercise. So that's exercise on those open acres that I've talked about. But it's also exercise that has to do with transportation. And we heard from Gary Hardy about bicycling. If I want to drive to the store, I need to be able to do that. But if I want to walk or bike to the store, I also need good ways to do that. There's a term that's a little broader, and it says active design. And that's how we design our community so that we can be active. And it makes me think of something I've seen in some airports where kids in airports are often pretty antsy because they've had to sit still for really long. I mean, adults are too, but the kids. In a number of airports, they've started putting playgrounds. So the kids can play and exercise and make friends. And I noticed that when we got on the plane, the kids all knew each other. There's a term in the plan, catalyzing happiness. We can't force people to be happy. And we can't force businesses to come to Lakewood. And we can't force people to live here or move here. But we can do things to make it so that you're more likely to know your neighbor. And this is more likely to be a healthy community, and people are more likely to be happy. In that same citizen survey, 95% of Lakewood citizens said they, at least somewhat, support the city investing resources to sustain the local environment. This is about being the community we want to be. So that's why I'm supporting it.
Thank you. Top that, Councilor Paul.
Well said. Well said, and that definitely can cut down on what I have to say. But I would just say, well done, and I was going to say boom to Jonathan, because you nailed it, and you and your group and the volunteers who put this together, I was very impressed and very excited about it. And what stood out to me is something that Councilor Shakti said, and that is economy, community, and environment. You know, all aspects is what we're trying to look at, enhance, and make best practices to where we can go out and teach, and we can learn. Since I've come on council, I've learned quite a bit, and, you know, I started recycling when I came on, and now I probably have more recyclables than I do trash. You know, but it's been something that I've learned through this process, and I think this is something that we can take out and help people so that they can learn. And I know there might be some consternation about the trash hauling, which is an odd... I get it. However, there's a lot more to this document than just dealing with trash. And being a small businessman and being in a business that's heavily regulated, you know, I'm for competition, and I appreciate that. And this plan actually allows us, as the government, which you don't always have the opportunity, to go out to private enterprise, private industry, and say, hey, come sit down with us. This is what we're hearing. Help us understand what you're up against, and let's come together with a plan and make this work. So I think if we continue down that road and take that approach, that's definitely doable, and I think we'll have a good response from those folks in those industries who feel that they might be threatened. So I'm excited to see this go forward. I'm excited to learn about it, and it's been a long time coming, and hats off, Mr. Quinn. Great job, and to all the folks that came and took an interest. I think we got a lot of new folks engaged in this process, and it's been really cool. So I will be supporting it.
Thank you. Councilor Wickman?
I assume we're beyond questions now into speechifying, so I'm going to go ahead and make my motion on that item ZW2-A, the residential curbside. My concern is that this might be used as a justification for bringing forth some sort of mandatory single hauler program or single hauler. And so to kind of make sure that doesn't happen, I want to put in one word between the potential and programs. It says right now we're presenting City Council with potential programs. I want to put in the word voluntary, so it emphasizes the fact that we are not opening up the doors for a single hauler program.
And I second that, Mayor.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is that page 180? What page are we on? I think I'm
page 83.
Well, actually, I'm looking at attachment B when we look at the changes. Attachment B, page 1, because page 85 has been changed, and so now the latest version. What's in that version? Okay.
Yeah, it's page 83. That was just a summary sheet, but page 83 is the current language.
Okay.
So the suggestion, the motion with a second is to, as an immediate priority, present City Council with potential voluntary programs? Correct. Councilor Kellen?
Yeah, I would oppose this change primarily because I think we need to look at the whole range of options that are out there. I mean, there's nothing that says the city has to, the next council has to adopt anything mandatory. But I think if we don't look at everything, then taking some things off the table prematurely leads to a bad decision down the road. If you have everything on the option, every option on the table, fully evaluated, then you have a better opportunity for the council, the next council, to make a good decision on what to do on this. So I would I will not be supporting that amendment.
Councilor Quinn?
Yes, I would object to limiting the options on this, and inserting the word voluntary certainly does that. If we're looking at an ordinance, for example, that would require waste haulers to provide residential curbside recycling services, that completely eliminates that option off the table. And it makes no sense to limit ourselves in that manner. So I would definitely oppose the amendment.
Yeah, I will also be opposing it. I just have a general comment. It's been somewhat remarkable to witness the last year or so this rise of this phantom boogeyman, for lack of a better word, of trash hauling, when 94% of our people want more options. Our citizens have told us that, and we've had people come down here and say the idea of even licensing a trash hauler for $50 a year is reminiscent of the Gulag or North Korea, and I think that kind of rhetoric certainly is hyperbole, to say the least. And I think what we have here with this revised language is a very, very modest very modest proposal. So I'll also be opposing the amendment. Any other comments? If not, please cast your votes on the amendment. And we did. The amendment fails 3-7. The noes are Murphy, Shakti, Kellen, Paul, Quinn, Coop, and Barroway. Next. Any more amendments? All right. We are to the point where it's time to vote on the entire plan as a whole. Any other questions or comments from City Council? I'll just close by adding my thanks to everyone that's been involved in this. I've been talking about this around the community for months and months now, and I keep using the words like robust and meaningful. This isn't a plan that's just going to sit on the shelf. This is a plan that is flexible, it's adaptable, but it's going to facilitate moving this community forward in the area of sustainability. So congratulations to everyone involved. And I would now ask you to please cast your votes on Resolution 2015-39, approving the City of Lakewood Sustainability Plan. And it passes 8-2. Voting against the sustainability plan are Councilors Johnson and Wickman. General business, Margie, anything?
None.
Kathy, no executive report?
No, sir.
All right. Under Mayor and City Council reports, I would just remind everyone that this Sunday, May 17th, is the Colfax Marathon, the 10th annual. I think this event has rapidly evolved from something that at least a few people feared would kind of get in the way of getting to church in the morning or whatever else they wanted to do, and it's evolved into something that this community truly celebrates. So this Sunday, the 17th, will be an opportunity to do that. The race starts at 6 a.m. At City Park in downtown Denver. It comes right through the heart of Lakewood and goes through the Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design. It goes through a certain little neighborhood near Garrison and Colfax, and comes back all the way down Colfax. And I know lots of neighborhood groups, lots of individuals get out there with water stations and orange stations and cheer the runners on. And Lakewood is known for beating both Denver and Aurora in terms of the community support, with the visible support of having folks out there cheering on these great athletes. So please get out there and enjoy, and that's the operative word, enjoy the 10th annual Kaiser Permanente Colfax Marathon. Councillor Paul.
On that note, I had the opportunity to join Maddie, who left, but she put together a great group with the Two Creeks neighborhood organization to clean up trash on the facts. And I must say, you have not lived till you've spent a Saturday morning cleaning up trash on Colfax.
Done.
Voluntarily, right? Voluntarily, not being forced to. So, but it was cool, and that neighborhood organization does a lot of really cool things, and they're very active. So, should be pretty cool to see the racers come through on a nice, clean stretch of road. So,
Thank you. Councillor Roybal. Councillor Barraway.
I'll have my cowbells ready to go on Sunday morning when they come through, because the runners actually take time to look around as they're running. They go, what neighborhood are we in? Where are we at? What city is this? And so we get a chance to reinforce you are in the city of Lakewood, because they are very pleased with the amount of neighborhoods and neighbors themselves that come out and hand out the oranges and cheer them on, especially by the time they get to us. We're about mile 17, I think it is. 15 and a half. So they got 11 more miles to go. So they're really happy to see us.
Councillor Coop, Councillor Quinn.
Quick announcement, no Ward 5 meeting this Saturday. If you come by, you will be very lonely. Instead, we're having our COPS Community and Council event jointly with Wards 3 and 4 next Tuesday, May 19th, right across the way in the Lakewood Cultural Center. We'll have at least one really good speaker talking about bicycle safety and bicycle etiquette, and of course, questions for our agents in blue will be welcome as well. Thank you very much.
Councillor Wickman.
Speaking of our agents in blue, remind me, but I think it's this Thursday that we have the Lakewood Police ceremony. So Wednesday, okay. 2 o'clock, is that? 3 o'clock Wednesday at the Cultural Center. All right, 1 out of 3. Very good. Thank you.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say first that I am really honored to sit on this city council, and very proud of it. And I actually respect our diversity of opinion. I think it's healthy, and I appreciate that we all bring different ideas to the table. This Saturday, Ward 1 is having our ward meeting at 9 o'clock, only the venue is going to be at Holy Shepherd, which is at 9th and Kipling. We're going to have an open mic. Just come and enjoy your neighbors, learn what's going on with them, just have some free and open discussion. This Saturday, 9 at Holy Shepherd. Thank you.
You know, Councillor Johnson, I appreciate diversity too. I just, voting no on everything is not necessarily the way of moving the city forward.
Well, I'd like to comment on that. I vote my conscience.
I know you do.
And my vote is yes because I support certain ideas.
I know. And the sustainability plan and a comprehensive plan are not among them.
Is this the time and place for us to have this discourse? I'll be happy to continue with you, Mayor.
Yeah. We'll take it offline.
There.
Councillor Kellen. Councillor Shakti.
The Friends of Camp Paha has their fundraising event Thursday from 5 to 7:30 at the Cultural Center. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. She was looking at me funny, but she smiled. So.
Margie? Tim, anything? Kathy? All right, we're adjourned at 9:34.